Brandon Tatum, a very popular black conservative YouTuber who I gave a shout out to back in 2016 when he was just getting started because I thought it would be good to have more black Trump supporters visible on social media. But as we all know, if you back a DEI hire, it never turns out well. And now Turncoat Tatum is trying to undermine Charlie Kirk's last wishes for Turning Point USA by trying to get them to sever ties with Tucker Carlson, posting this just the other day. I will always support Turning Point USA. Tucker Carlson is antithetical to what TPUSA stands for, which is interesting because Charlie Kirk stood by Tucker and lost millions of dollars a year in donations from wealthy Jewish donors because he wouldn't cancel Tucker from their primary major event coming up in December, America Fest. I do not support him at any TPUSA event. He should not be there, period. Again, that's not what Charlie thought, but you know what? Brandon Tatum knows what's best. He went on to dangle a $1 million donation in front of Turning Point while suggesting that they sever ties with Tucker, saying that a friend asked me whether he should donate $500,000 to Turning Point USA. I said yes. We are raising $1 million to give to Erica, which she might use for TPUSA. TPUSA serves a bigger purpose than speakers on stage, but supporting Tucker is wrong for TPUSA. TPUSA has never supported a person like him spewing anti-Semitism. Again, undermining one of the last things that Charlie Kirk stood for before his assassination, that he wouldn't bow down, he wouldn't be bullied, he wouldn't be emotionally blackmailed by his Jewish donors or anyone into cutting ties with Tucker. Stay tuned because there's plenty more to come in this video, but real quick, subscribe to my channel if you're new here because, as I think you're already starting to see, you won't find another channel like this anywhere else. And we know that Charlie Kirk stood by Tucker Carlson despite losing millions of dollars a year from donors because he openly talked about this. So did Tucker. But to Candace Owens' credit, who is like a broken clock, right, twice a day, she did obtain and publish this group text message from Charlie Kirk and others where Charlie was venting about losing the money and, of course, just affirming that he was standing by Tucker, saying, just lost another huge Jewish donor. $2 million a year because we won't cancel Tucker. I'm thinking of inviting Candace. Now, he may have been serious. He may have been sarcastic. It's too hard to tell in that text message. But he did go on to say, Jewish donors play into all the stereotypes. I cannot and will not be bullied like this, leaving me no choice but to leave the pro-Israel cause.
But I want to take the start of this show to address some of the things that have been going around on public, namely about a group text chain that has been made known and released by Candace Owens. And I just want to address it head on because, that was a screen grab that I had shared with people. So it is authentic. And I want to go into it because I actually am really excited that the truth is out there. I first want to say the reason I didn't share that screen grab publicly is because it was a private exchange.
Now, to be clear, Candace's rantings and ravings over the last few weeks are sort of like the National Enquirer, mostly a bunch of garbage and fake news and nonsense, but occasionally getting something big right. Like when the National Enquirer actually broke the story of John Edwards' affair and that love child that he had with his photographer who was going around on his presidential campaign. Candace publishing the text message, okay, not exactly groundbreaking, just kind of reaffirms what was already publicly available, what Charlie himself was talking about. Candace's latest piece of evidence, however, is Charlie Kirk appearing to her in a dream to tell her she's on the right track.
I similarly, like I just said, had a vivid dream this weekend, and Charlie came to me and he told me that he was betrayed. And so for me, you don't have to believe that, but I do believe that. And
And it's hilarious because when I went off on Candace just the other day, a lot of people's brains melted and all the top thumbed up comments were people accusing me of selling out to Israel, getting the call taking the $7,000 or being a Jew. These people, and you, if you're one of them, that are offended by me mocking Candace's crazy theories again, are engaging in what's called black and white thinking because you don't have the brain power to understand complex things. So something is either all good or all bad. And you have a short memory because you couldn't remember some of the things that I said about Ben Shapiro's favorite country just 2 days earlier. Or I don't think you have the attention span to understand what I'm about to say about it again. I and many others have Israel fatigue. We're tired of hearing about their problems. We're tired of them sucking America into their problems. We're tired of them sucking American tax dollars to deal with their problems. But people like Brandon Tatum just love what Benjamin Netanyahu's doing.
I will never change my support for the state of Israel and its existence. I don't have to like anything Benjamin Netanyahu does, although I think that what he's doing in the war is reasonable. I don't agree with everything he's doing. I think he should have finished the job 2 years ago.
He should have completely ethnically cleansed the region 2 years ago, according to Tatum and people like Laurel Loomer and Joel Pollack, the editor of Breitbart News, Mark Levin, and all the rest. Because, they're only doing targeted strikes. And I didn't say they were doing a genocide. I said they were ethnically cleansing. They're obviously forcing out and coercing out an ethnic population from the region because, well, as even Donald Trump's son-in-law, Jared Kushner, admits, there's basically nothing left of Gaza. But, according to certain mainstream media outlets and Benjamin Netanyahu himself, they're only doing targeted strikes, don't you know? They're only going after Hamas. Even Charlie Kirk said that they were going to ethnically cleanse Gaza, and you could see how uncomfortable he was when he admitted that.
But the fact is now Bibi and the Israeli hard-right government has a mandate. I got to be careful the way I say this.
Got to be careful how I say this.
They're going to try to ethnically cleanse Gaza. Yep. I mean, I don't use that term lightly, okay?
And this was right after the attack by Hamas, which obviously was horrific. All of the morons, whenever you have slight sympathy for the innocent civilians in Gaza, then they always accuse you of siding with Hamas. Brandon Tatum's in that inner circle of conservative ink so tight that he recently got an interview with Benjamin Netanyahu where he was proud to tell him that when he went to Israel on a Christian church trip that they only got spit on once by Jews. Of course, Laura Loomer, one of the sharks circling, trying to cancel Tucker Carlson, upset that he made a biblical reference at Charlie's memorial about how the Jewish religious leaders at the time killed Jesus for speaking the truth because it's the ultimate story about being killed to silence you by someone who disagrees with your opinions. Saying that Tucker Carlson's a lunatic and that she's not going to be giving her time or energy to anyone who supports him. And then adding, like Tatum, it's demonic. And ever since Tucker Carlson became free from Fox News and the constraints of corporate media, he could say whatever he wants. He can interview whoever he wants. And more, he's sounding an awful lot like a YouTuber that I know. Guy in his kitchen on a laptop.
And the last thing that I think we need to do to restore balance between the relationship between the United States and Israel and to restore some sanity to the public conversation on this topic is to get our theology right. And this is not a message aimed at Israelis or Jews. This is a message aimed at Christians, who are the largest group of Israel supporters in the United States. And their view of Israel is colored not just by sentimental attachment, which is fine, or trips to Israel, great, no problem, but by a Christian heresy, the oldest of the Christian heresies, which is that God somehow prefers some people based on their DNA. And of course, the whole point of Christianity is that that is no longer true, that there is no chosen people. The chosen people are people who choose Jesus. That is the Christian message right there. It's not an anti-Semitic message, by the way. It's the Christian message. It's the core Christian message. And yet there are many self-described representatives of the Christian faith, the world's largest, who are daily sending a different message. And we should be very clear. Whatever this is, it's not Christianity, it is heresy.
Of course, those who know Tucker personally and aren't trying to throw him under the bus in order to jockey a higher level position within the conservative mainstream media all say that Tucker doesn't have an anti-Semitic bone in his body. And of course, as you know, if you disagree with a Jew about the best flavor of ice cream, you'll often be called an anti-Semite, because that term is thrown around almost as much, if not more so, in the last few years than the term racist, to try to silence and scare people into submission. Here's David Sachs, who is one of Elon Musk's close friends and associates, who also is Jewish, saying the obvious about Tucker.
The base of conservatism is not believing that any government is sacred.
Thank you, David Sachs!
Every government should be subject to criticism, because we know that they will always abuse their authority. Power corrupts, and absolute power corrupts absolutely. All governments must be subject to criticism, and governments shouldn't seek to make themselves immune by essentially calling people names. And I've known Tucker for 30 years. He doesn't have an anti-Semitic bone in his body, and it really pisses me off the way that he gets attacked for criticizing the conduct of a government.
Or when you talk about the actual theological differences between Christianity and Judaism, particularly when you point out what the Talmud, the second most holiest book in Judaism, which is the basis for rabbinic Judaism, the most popular kind of Judaism today, what it says about Jesus and about Mary. I've done videos on this in the past. Or when you talk about how Martin Luther, who basically caused the Reformation, the fracturing of the Catholic Church and Protestantism, what he wrote about Jews and Judaism in his book, The Certain Group of People and Their Lies, a book which was banned in the last 5 years from Amazon. Of course, Amazon allows all kinds of different books criticizing every basic religion, from Mormonism to Catholicism, Jehovah's Witnesses, to Islam, to Scientology, if you can even call that a religion. But certain books a little bit too critical of a certain group of people, those ones get banned. This isn't a book self-published by some crazed neo-Nazi. This is a book by the founder of Protestantism. Not to mention Culture of Critique, the book by Kevin McDonald, a former sociology professor at California State University, Long Beach. And as I've said before, and I will continue to say, in case you've been living under a rock and we need to shame the brand name conservatives into finally getting some balls, none of them ever talk about these books being banned. Again, be sure to subscribe to my channel if you're new here, because I think it's abundantly clear now you're not going to find another channel like this anywhere else. Let's keep going. A few more clips, a couple more things to cover here. This is Josh Hammer, who is an editor over at Newsweek magazine, and he calls Tucker Carlson the biggest and most dangerous anti-Semite in America.
What Charlie was essentially trying to do was he was essentially trying to figure out how to navigate this to keep the Nick Fuentes neo-Nazi Groyper stuff at bay, while trying to meet the younger generation, the Gen Z folks who are pretty wobbly on this issue,
who couldn't care less about Israel, who don't want anything to do with it, who also have Israel fatigue. But please continue.
Kind of meet them on their own terms, and to try to kind of guide them towards a better place without using kind of the outmoded rhetoric and talking points of kind of the 1970s, 1980s boomers. That's essentially what he was trying to do. Now, we can quibble as to whether he made the right decision here or there. I happen to not like that Tucker Carlson speaks at Turning Point USA events. I think Tucker Carlson is a malicious anti-Semite. I think he's the most dangerous anti-Semite in the history of the United States. I think he is a wow, profoundly dangerous man. I genuinely feel that way, actually. So
Now, this is a guy who claims that he was in regular communication with Charlie Kirk up until the night before he was assassinated. And he is one of those sharks circling TPUSA now, trying to form it into their own image instead of the image and the plan and the agenda that Charlie Kirk had set out. So many people have soured on Israel over the last few years that the taboo of never criticizing them ever has obviously been broken, and the floodgates just went wide open. Here's Congressman Matt Gaetz talking about the influence of AIPAC, something that you would never hear talked about in mainstream conservative circles ever, because that's, kind of looking behind the curtain a little bit too close as to how our foreign policy is manipulated by those with allegiance to a foreign country.
Initially, I resented the fact that there was no appreciation for nuance. Like if you asked any questions about any decision of the Israeli government in any place regarding settlements, regarding Gaza, whatever, you were like, you had deviated from the script. And I just, in any policy area, I had resentment over that. And then I saw the way the AIPAC worked, and that was weird for like a country lawyer like me. I remember my first AIPAC reception, and like your fundraiser tells you have to go, and your chief of staff tells you have to go.
Over to Israel.
Your committee chairman all tell you have to go. And you get there and you wear this name badge. And I remember there's a QR code on it. And what we were supposed to do was go talk to donors. And then if they liked you, they scanned your QR code to make a donation, like on the spot. And so can you just imagine how demoralizing that is to like be told that your job for the next several hours to go chat people up, hoping they would scan you like a can of tomato soup on the way out of the meeting.
I mean, it's literally purchasing.
Right. And so I saw that and I was like, wow, that is so freaking weird.
Oh, it's weird, all right. And Charlie Kirk started to notice these things too.
25%. You go under 35, you have almost zero support across the United States.
Under 35, people under 35-year-olds just couldn't care less about what is happening between the ethnic land dispute that's been going on for over 75 years, really for thousands of years over there, but in its modern form, 75 years over there in the Middle East.
Your closest ally. I see what's happening, and it's my job to comment honestly on it, but I am sick of being lectured on like, you have to see it exactly as we see it and support everything, or you're against us.
You can't disagree with a Jew about the best flavor of ice cream. Otherwise, you're fomenting another Holocaust.
So this is so important, Megan. And again, you cannot say everyone in the pro-Israel, and I don't say it, acts that way. But I got texts about you, Megan, saying, why is Megan like doing the bidding of Hamas? I was like, what are you talking about? Megan's the best.
Billy Graham struggled with the same thing, but he didn't talk about it publicly, although he did talk about it privately, or what he thought was privately, in the Oval Office with President Richard Nixon. But what he didn't know is that Richard Nixon recorded all of those conversations in the infamous Nixon White House tapes, which were then later published, where the entire world got to hear Billy Graham admit this.
I'm more conservative than you are. At least you told me that one time, and I think that's true. But I have to lean a little bit. I go and I keep friends with Mr. Rosenthal at the New York Times and people of that sort, And not all the Jews, but a lot of the Jews are great friends of mine. They swarm around me and they're friendly to me because they know that I'm friendly to Israel. But they don't know how I really feel about what they're doing to this country, and I have no power, no way to handle them. But I would stand up if under proper circumstances.
Oh, you never heard that before. Well, you obviously didn't read my last book, The War on Conservatives, and I've been trying to tell you, you're not going to get this kind of information from any of the mainstream YouTubers, podcasters, Newsmax, Fox News hosts, okay? You're only going to get it right here, so be sure to subscribe. Check back for more. And if you enjoy watching my videos, buy me a coffee by clicking the link in the description below because, as you can probably tell, I don't shill garbage products or services like every other YouTuber. I just promote my own merch, and you can buy me a coffee. It's a great service that you can use to support your favorite creator because YouTube takes like 30 or 40% of the super chat and super thanks that the viewers leave. And that's before taxes. So buy me a coffee, a great service just to support your favorite content creator. Click the link in the description below. Sponsor me with what you think the channel, the information that I bring you is worth. And stay tuned because I will see you soon.